Welcome to chemistry. Today we are going to learn about how to convert from one temperature scale to the other. Uh, Usually we have Kelvin scale, Celsius scale, or Fahrenheit scale. But for regions chemistry, we're mainly going to focus on Kelvin and Celsius scale. In regions chemistry, we use both scales. There is no problem unless you are dealing with gas laws. So when we cover the unit of energy and gas law, you should use Kelvin scale only. Otherwise, the temperature, if you're calculating temperature in terms of, let's just say, 0 degrees Celsius, and you're multiplying something or dividing something by zero in your calculator, you're only going to see error message, right? So it's important for us to learn how to convert from Kelvin to Celsius and vice versa. And especially, we need to remember that in the unit of energy and gas laws, we should use Kelvin scale and not any other. In terms of, if you're wondering, like, why do I need to know this? Um, Whenever we are baking any goods, we use oven, and there we usually use Celsius scale, or sometimes in some of the oven you might see Fahrenheit scale as well. So you need to learn how to convert it. In countries like Asian countries, they use Celsius scale to measure temperature, where in the United States, we use Fahrenheit to measure the temperature. So it's all about the scale that we prefer, but it's important for us to learn how to convert from one to the other, um, to understand the temperature better. Especially, let's just say you're watching a YouTube and you're baking something, and the YouTuber said you have to bake the good in 350 degrees Celsius, and your oven has everything in terms of Fahrenheit. So if you just put 350 Fahrenheit, that might not be the right temperature, and you might not get the result based on your YouTube video. So it's important in our daily life as well. So especially in Regents exam, they usually give you a reference table, which is extremely helpful for students who are new to chemistry. So in that reference table, if you go to reference table T, which is the last page of your reference table, you will find the formula for temperature, which is capital K equals degree C plus 273. Capital K stands for Kelvin, the smaller circular thing, it, it's a degree sign, and then capital C stands for Celsius. So the formula is already given to you. Now, let's talk about a question. So we wanted to convert 273 Kelvin to Celsius scale. So one thing I would suggest to all of my students is always write down the formula. Anytime you're solving a question related to formula, always write it down, because at the end of the day, it's more about organization. The more organized you are during a test, the better you're going to perform. Because even if I make a mistake, then I can track it down. If you are messy, if you don't write the formula, you just go for it, there's a higher probability that even if you make a mistake, you might not be able to find it, right? So let's make sure that we keep our entropy less, right? So in this case, first thing I know that I have an unknown and I have a known. So what is known? Known is 273 Kelvin. So this is something I know. So instead of K, I would just write the value, which is 273. Then degree C is my unknown. So something I'm trying to solve for. So I'm trying to color code it for you because some of you are visual learners, so it might be helpful to see what is unknown, right? And how are we solving this? So at this point, some of you are very good in math, so you obviously know how to solve this, but my goal for these videos are to help um, people who are struggling with chemistry. So I will go over it very slowly. If you don't need my help, you can just skip some part and move on to the next question. So in order to isolate the red one, I need to remove 273 from my right side. And you can't just remove one thing from the right side. You have to do the same thing on both sides because it has to be balanced. So when you do that, these 273 will cancel each other out, resulting your degree Celsius isolated, right? It's left alone on the right side. And then you can do your calculation on the left side over here. So 273 minus 273, that will be 0. So what did I learn from this question? I learned that 273 Kelvin is equivalent to 0 degree Celsius. All right, let's try another one. 425 Kelvin. As I said before, even though the formula is written in my reference table, I always copy it down, always. So instead of 425, I would replace the letter K with 425. Capital C is unknown, so I would leave it as it is. Let me use a different color. And then the other one is obviously known, so it's just a number. So how do I isolate this? I would subtract 273 from both sides so that I can cancel this one out. And then 425 minus 273 would be equal to your degree Celsius, which is our unknown. Again, if you can't do this in your head, always use your calculator to get the correct result because it doesn't make sense for you to make a mistake during the exam. So we got 152 degrees Celsius. So 425 Kelvin equals 152 degrees Celsius. Why don't you pause the video and try the next one before we move forward? Again, it's always about practicing more and more questions. If you're not good at something, practice more and it might be helpful. So you should pause the video and then check your answer and then we can move forward. So I hope you got it right. So again, follow the steps. I wrote down the formula. I replaced the given number, which is 250K. And then I subtracted 273 from both sides and I got negative 23 degrees Celsius. So 250K equals negative 23 degrees Celsius. All right, so for this one, we have to do the opposite. So now we were given as Celsius scale, we have to convert it to Kelvin scale, right? So we're using the same exact formula where K equals degree C plus 273. This time, instead of degree C, they gave you 27. The number is 27, so I'm going to bring it over here. So instead of writing degree C, I'm going to replace the letter with the value, which is 27. And then rest of them is exactly the same, so you keep it as it is. So now all I have to do is add 27 with 273. And you will get 300. Done. Let's try one more. We have K equals degree C plus 273. Degree C is given as negative 25. And we have plus 273. And then we have to add those two numbers. And we will be getting 248. So what does that mean? That means negative 25 degrees Celsius equals 248 Kelvin. Notice even though the Celsius scale is negative, the Kelvin scale is still positive. And this is one of the reasons we use Kelvin scale when we're solving energy and gas law equations, because Kelvin scale doesn't go to 0 quite easily, right? While Celsius scale might go to 0 quite easily, and if you multiply or divide by 0 in a energy and gas law equation, obviously you're going to have some error. So why don't we pause the video again and solve the next question and check our answer once we're done. So we were given as 50 Celsius, 50 degrees Celsius, and we needed to convert it to Kelvin. We added 270 to it, and that's it. Voila, 323. That's your answer. So I hope you learned how to convert from Kelvin scale to Celsius scale and vice versa. That was the goal for today's lesson. However, if you're living in the United States, I highly recommend you to learn how to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit or vice versa. I know nowadays we can get those things done in an app, but it's always a good idea to know how to do this, right? So it will sharpen your conversion skill. That's something that we use in chemistry a lot, right? We will talk more about significant figures and other measurement related topics in our next couple of videos. Till then, take care.